Mr. Vice President, who would you say is in charge of the Democrat Party? Who's the head of the Democrat Party? Is it AOC?
President AOC, the stuff of nightmares, Brett. Thank you. You've ruined my sleep for this evening.
Who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
I don't know. Honestly,
Do you think about it?
I think to the extent the Democrats have a leader, Donald J. Trump is the leader of the Democratic Party.
They're against him.
Because they're just against everything that he does. They don't have real leadership. And I think it's why I'm not too concerned about 2028, because if I wake up in a fantasy world where the Democrats actually have constructive ideas about how to govern this country, that'll actually be a good thing. But if in the world that we actually live in, where they're just anti-Trump about everything, the politics of 2028 will take care of themselves.
I know the Democrat Party. Who's in charge of it? Donald Trump. He's the head of the Democrat Party because the Democrats make every single decision that they make based on Donald Trump. What does Donald Trump think? We're going to think the opposite. What does Donald Trump want? We're going to want the opposite. What does Donald Trump do? We're going to do the opposite. If you don't believe me, just look at how many elections they've lost. Donald Trump wins elections. We're going to lose elections. Mission accomplished. Donald Trump wants secure borders. He wants to deport illegal immigrants. He wants law and order. We want the opposite of that. Donald Trump says there's 2 genders. We say there's 200. Donald Trump doesn't want men competing in women's sports. We want all men in women's sports. They don't even know what they want anymore. They just look at President Donald Trump and they say, if Donald Trump is for it, we're against it. And JD Vance is 100% right. If that's your barometer, if that's how you measure yourself, then that person is the leader of the Democrat Party. Donald Trump is the leader of the Democrat Party, not Hillary Clinton, not Pete Buttigieg, not AOC, and not Bernie Sanders. Because nobody looks at Bernie Sanders and says, Mr. Sanders, that sounds like it reminds me of Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders, what do we do? Nobody's calling up Hillary Clinton and saying, Mrs. Clinton, Madam Secretary, whatever she was. What do we do? What should we think? How should we act? How should we vote? What's our strategy moving forward? Nobody is doing that. They all look at Donald Trump and they do the opposite. Donald Trump said, you know what's going to be my barometer? You know what's going to be my North Star? You know what my sextant is going to be that's going to guide me to the promised land? It's going to be common sense. Donald Trump said, let's get back to common sense. Common sense is what we do. Caroline Levitt said it last week in her press briefing. Donald Trump's entire platform, every decision that's made, everything in the White House, every executive order is rooted in one thing: common sense. So President Trump says, should we tariff people equally, or should we just pay their tariffs and let them take advantage of us financially? No, that doesn't make any sense. What the commonsensical thing, or the thing that makes the most common sense, would be if we're getting ripped off by a country, to stop it. To stop getting ripped off by that country. That makes sense. If they're tariffing us at 700% and we're tariffing them at 0, you know what would make sense? Let's tariff them at 700%. That makes sense. Donald Trump says, does it make sense that we're charging our own people more and more money in tax revenue because we're spending ridiculous amounts of money on stupid stuff? Or should we get external revenue in the form of tariffs and maybe stop spending money on ridiculous stuff? That makes sense. If we're spending money paying out Social Security checks every single week to people who are 300 years old, meaning they're not 300 years old, they're dead. They're gone. Somebody's cashing that Social Security check and it ain't the person whose name is on it. Maybe we stop paying that. That makes sense. Maybe we shut down the USAID and stop funding transgender comic books in Peru. That makes sense. Maybe what we should do is we should take all the illegal criminal thug alien gang members who murder and rape and sexually assault and bring in drugs, dangerous drugs like fentanyl, and are in charge of human trafficking and are attacking young girls and shoving their dead bodies in pipes. Maybe we get all of those people and we send them back to El Salvador or Venezuela or wherever they came from and let them rot in a prison down there. That makes perfect sense. That makes sense to a lot of people. That's what we should do. Maybe elections should be free and fair and on election day. Maybe it should be one ballot per person. Maybe they should be hand counted. All of that makes too much sense. Donald Trump looks at common sense. The Democrats look at Donald Trump. And think about this, if Donald Trump is basing every decision, every agenda item, every desire, every task on his presidential to-do list, if he's basing all of those on common sense, and the Democrats look at Donald Trump and say, we're going to do the opposite, then everything they do is nonsense. The opposite of common sense is no sense or nonsense. They are nonsensical people. I know it. You know it. They know it. President Donald Trump knows it. And he actually talked about it with Kristen Welker in this interview.
And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person.
They got a new person called Crockett. She's low IQ. I love that. Reminds me of Miami Vice, doesn't it? Crockett and Tubbs. Oh, that's got to be a meme. That's got to be a meme. We need like Jasmine Crockett and who's really fat? Oh, JB Pritzker. We could do Jasmine Crockett and JB Pritzker and call it Crockett and Tubbs. That'd be, I digress. Here's the rest of President Trump's clip.
And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do. And I really believe in a two-party system. Because it's good to be challenged. It's really good to have a two-party. You know, it's good. Being challenged is okay. It keeps you sharp. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I've heard great descriptions of Joe Biden. Sleepy Joe, tired Joe, the big guy, all that. I've not heard a better description of Joe Biden by anyone than he's the worst thing that happened to old people. Not people. I mean, he's the worst thing that happened to people. Let's face it. If you live in the United States of America, Joe Biden's the worst thing that happened to you, unless you're here illegally. If you're an American citizen, if you're a man, a woman, if you're an immigrant, legal, if you're black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, if you're whatever, even if you're transgender, Joe Biden is the worst thing that happened to people. But Donald Trump, he's talking about Bernie Sanders. Bernie can't run. You know why? Joe Biden ruined it for him because Joe Biden is younger than Bernie Sanders, acts way older than Bernie Sanders. So now Bernie Sanders could be fit as a fiddle, but nobody's going to vote for him because Joe Biden ruined it. Joe Biden is the worst thing that happened to old people.
Because he was grossly incompetent, and I think maybe for artificial reasons. You know, he had operations and things, so maybe that's an artificial. But I know people that are unbelievably sharp, and they're older than 87. But I watch Bernie Sanders. He's a nut job, but he's still sharp. He's sharp as he's the same guy he was. He hasn't gone down. But Biden is really, he's the worst thing to happen to old people.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I would love the opportunity to sit down and talk to President Donald Trump. I don't know that I'd be able to keep a straight face. I don't know that I'd be able to sit there the way Kristen Welker does, hear him say something amazing like Joe Biden is the worst thing to happen to old people, which is very descriptive and very true. And I'll just sit there I couldn't do it with a straight face.